Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hartley. This podcast exists to equip and inspire your heart-centered leadership. Every week, we bring interviews with some of the greatest heart sets and mindsets on the planet. I hope the heartprint of our time spent together is that it creates new possibilities for you and all those you come into contact with. If you'd like to explore what we could make possible for you, then head to abty.co.uk/connect and book in a free 30-minute call to begin our journey together. I just want to express a huge amount of gratitude to our sponsors, Map Media Online, an independent agency who specialise in content marketing, helping businesses get their message seen by the right audience. Matt has produced all the digital media assets for this podcast since episode 106 back in December 2020. To have Matt in your corner, head to mapmedia.online. I'd also like to thank Exhale Coffee. I have been a big fan of Exhale Coffee since meeting Alex and the team back in 2022. Exhale is the first coffee to be sourced, roasted and lab tested specifically to maximize its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potency. An independent lab test has shown that 1 cup of Exhale coffee has the same antioxidant power as 1.8 kilos of blueberries or 55 oranges. I'm a huge fan, and Mrs. H loves the decaf, especially because she knows that Exhale use the mountain water decaffeination process, which uses only pure glacial water from the highest mountain in Mexico and no nasty chemicals. Simply head to exhalecoffee.com/ABTY for your special offer. And lastly, before I introduce this week's guest, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would really help us leave a greater heartprint on this world. On episode 247, it's an honour to welcome David Olcott to the podcast. David is the founder and CEO of Samurai Success, a coaching organisation that focuses on developing strategies and structures that provide for sustainable growth and productivity. David is the author of Swords of Illumination, which is a book all about how you can create your experience of any event that you will face in this lifetime. It is a book about how to get back that feeling of a sense of destiny. It is about closing that gap between who you say you are and how you actually are in this world. About not having lost that sense of destiny, how to take charge of it and begin living the life that you were meant to live. This is probably one of the most profound conversations I've had with any guest in the last 5 years. I hope that this meets you where you are. I hope that this leaves you a little bit better than you were yesterday. And here we go. It is episode 247 with David Olcott. David Olcott, welcome to Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you, brother?
Good, my brother. Good to finally meet you, see you, be in your presence, man.
We were connected through Travis. I absolutely love Travis. I love that guy's heart. For those that haven't heard Travis's name before, Travis Steffens, CEO of The Breath Source. Go and check out the episode and conversation I had with Travis. But he is a wonderful human being, and I'm so grateful that he's connected us both to make this conversation possible today.
Absolutely, he is a raving fan of the book, of course, and everything else. And you know Travis, once he gets passionate about something, just get out of that guy's way, man, because he is a true source, man, on this planet. So. Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm fortunate enough to have a copy of the book, the Swords of Illumination. And I'm one of those guys that goes straight for the bit at the very start. Before you get into it, before the introductions, is the more the I can't forget the word, like the testimony, the type of the appreciation kind of section at the very start. And in it, you talk about you're grateful for the angels that have come into your life. And it, I've had some stuff going on in my life over the last couple of days. And, I have a faith. So I have a commitment to seeing people as souls rather than the mistakes that maybe some people make. And one of the things that you've wrote is that, it's in the dedication section. I should have said that. You said, I want to thank the angels that have come into my life who have completely forgotten who they are.
Yes.
So that I can experience who I am. I'm like, oh man, like what an accountability piece to go. Do you know what? Thank you for those people who have somehow forgotten them so that I may experience the depths of who I am. And that's been my last 4 or 5 days, my friend. Like, I won't delve into the situation right now, but what a sentence to read. I appreciate you for that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful understanding of this physical plane, brother, is to remember that as we are all souls here and we forget, we're constantly swimming in this forgetfulness juice, if you will, right? This ocean of forgetfulness. And if you talk to as many people as I have, and you have, brother, I mean, looking at your podcast list is phenomenal. And what you're doing is remarkable. We'll get in more into that.
Thank you.
But yeah, so and to not know that, to know with certainty because of your podcast and others like you, that we're not alone in this. There are incredible people on this planet that really are making a difference, want to make a difference, and not all the headliners and famous and celebrities. You know, the most incredible things have been done on this planet have been by people who you'll never hear of, and they get a chance to be out here and be, you know, in the public's eye, see they exist. So those people have had this belief system when you talk to them that, you know, why don't they get hooked in like the rest of us? Why don't they get triggered like the rest? I mean, it just drives me crazy. It's like, how do they do that? And they have a singular belief system that shows up in multiple ways, man. And they remember who they are. And they remember those people attacking them are there as soul contracts. Be able to come into this physical plane so that I can experience who I am through them forgetting who they are. And they are the magic. And this is why the masters, I believe, have said to us, love thy enemies. Because without them, brother, you and I can't experience who we say we are.
I had an enemy in my life in the last 3 to 4 days, and true testament to my inner growth that I have been revealed to its presence was I prayed for my enemy.
Outstanding, man.
And like, honestly, I sit here in wonderment and awe and wonder at what that, for me, I would call it God, and what Jesus has been able to do in my heart. I know that not everybody would use those words, but for me, I know that something happened within my heart that I would not have been able to make present myself.
And it's interesting as you know, we go through this rationalization of this conversation, right? It's just like, you know, there's this part of your soul that just goes, yeah, just do it. It is just, it's natural. It'll make you gonna feel better. And then there's this part of you that holds on, like, no, I can't let that go. I can't let that be. You know, what is it saying about me if I let that kind of behavior and tolerate that kind of stuff? And it really comes down to understanding who forgiveness is for.
Right.
Forgiveness isn't for the other party, it's for us, the ones doing the forgiveness, so that we can release that energy and get reconnected to source.
What is it about actually, the thing I wanted to say is, obviously you've been rooted in the personal development world for several decades, working alongside the likes of Tony Robbins, and it's funny, a wonderful lady on the podcast a year or so ago, Amelia, she says, everybody wants to do personal development in the light. Like, hey, we're going to do our journaling, we're going to do all the nice stuff. And yet so often the depths of it's revealed during the struggle, during the battle, during the tough times.
I don't ever remember one of those great stories, movies, books that I've ever read in my life, Ryan, that ever said, I had a silver spoon from the beginning of my life and it just went all the way through it. There was nothing of any kind of consequence, or I mean, nothing that got me, nothing that, you know, brought me in that says, oh, I can relate to that. So you're absolutely right, man. There's going to be these things. And what makes the difference, coming back to the Swords of Illumination, is really being centered about who you are. And this has been a message that's been here for thousands of years. This is not new. This is about reminding us, if we really want to deal with this chaotic world that we're obviously in, how do we do that? And how we do that, and how the masters, and I'm talking about, you know, some of these incredible people on the planet do it so well. How they do it is kind of like a formula. It's a human technology, and we all have access to it. It's all working within us. It's just being very conscious about it. And that's what the Swords of Illumination is designed to be able to bring back to your awareness, that, hey, remember this about you? Hey, remember this about you? So what it's designed to do.
I love that. I'm looking forward to diving into the book, but before we do, I know that the Japanese culture is been represented in your work for a lot longer. You've been the CEO of Samurai Success for
Yes.
over 20 years. I see that over your shoulder. What is it about the Japanese culture? What is it about the samurai that's really captured your imagination?
Interestingly enough, one of the very first books that I read around this social consciousness, now this is 30 years ago, so that term didn't
Yeah,
even exist yet, right?
yeah.
It's actually called Samurai Selling. And in that book, I became very much aware that the word and term samurai means in
Yeah.
service of others.
Mm.
Listen, brother, when when the master comes to you and say the greatest life you can live, the greatest life you can live is about being in service to others.
Mm-hmm.
It just clicked. It just resonated with me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that put me on this path, my destiny, if you will.
Yeah.
That pushed me to understanding that becoming samurai was such an important part of me to truly be in service. But how to do that, how to truly become in service to others is not like you think it would be, because the thing you have to spend the most amount of time on if you truly want to be in that service is that you got to figure you out.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
you, during these conversations, can get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
Because if I bring my stuff to the party and we're having this conversation, man, I'm just waiting for my time to talk. I'm just waiting to share my belief systems. I'm just waiting. I'm not being in service to you. I still working on me. So to truly be in that light, to truly be in service, you got to do something that we're not programmed to do. We're told that you shouldn't be working on you. You shouldn't love yourself. You shouldn't get to know you. You should be doing all this stuff for everybody else. And I will tell you, that type of belief system leads to a life that's very different from truly being samurai.
Yeah, I've tried to wrestle this idea because I have a huge amount of heart for service, love. Love leads through the heart of this organization. But I have been very clear with people who have asked me questions about it that it's a paradox. It's absolutely about me for as long as I connect with my heart, what I love, what I'm inspired by, what I think I have that people need. And then the minute I then know that, it has nothing to do with me whatsoever. So it's a huge paradox. It's ironic, right?
Yes. Yes. It's a beautiful thing to look about these this illusion that you and I are talking about is this illusion of separation.
100%. Yeah.
And so when you get around that and your brain can get around, because your soul's already there, man, and your heart's already there. It's just like, get the hell out of the way, brain, and let us do our work. And when we do that, we become very heart-centered, we become very soul conscious, and we just interact in that way. But this illusion is by me taking care of me, and where you realize that you and I are not separate from each other, I'm actually doing the best work I can do for you. So it's a journey for sure to be able to get around that, because there's a lot of this, well, I'm just doing it for my own ego. Well, if your ego is the one managing that conversation, I totally agree with you. You're never going to get out of that place. You're never going to be past your own stuff. You're never going to be thinking about the other person. It's a soul's journey we're talking about.
It's incredible. And I'm smiling right now. And I'll tell you why I'm smiling. Because many people go down this spiritual journey, and like me, they grow their hair long, they get a beard. Like, you're a dude in a sharp suit jacket and a nice pressed shirt, and yet here you are talking about all matters of the heart and spirit and no separation. And I just think, man, like, it's just so powerful, because and I wonder, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall as you speak in the hearts and the minds of corporates, because I think we've got, and this is the thing where I like, or at least my understanding of Eastern culture is a bit different to the Western culture, because the Western culture of pursuit of happiness is clearly not working for us all. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall as you bring this philosophy to the corporates in America.
It's an interesting idea about bringing a message to people like this. What's really more interesting is how quickly they adopt to it, because it resonates with them. They just don't know how to take that kind of concept, that kind of belief system, those paradigms, and make them work in this capitalist monetized world. They don't know the connections. And it's not been taught by a lot of people. There aren't a lot of books out there going, hey, let me show you my negotiation skills to be able to get everything I want from you. And there isn't a lot of examples currently in the forefront of America populace to be able to talk about how to combine these things, how to see through those illusions of sex. And really, it comes down to competition versus cooperation.
Sure.
Cooperation with yourself first, and then you can cooperate, because you really can't give something away you don't possess.
Yeah.
When you have it, it's easy to give it away.
Yeah.
Why you can see when you have chaos in your world, it's easy to give it away. When you have anger, rage, pain, and that's what we're all giving away. We can stop the madness if we find out how to heal, solve this issues that are going on with ourselves. And that really comes down to really one thing that the masters have spoken about for centuries: remembering who you truly are.
Yeah. I knew why Mufasa was my favorite character for Disney.
Shows up everywhere, man.
100%. One of the things I love on your website is that because obviously the image of a samurai is a guy built in the war, right? He's a warrior. But one of the things you say on your website is that the new millennial samurai is a warrior not born from the battle, but rather the heartfelt pursuit of mastery.
This has been a center point of the philosophy of the samurai for centuries, brother. Whether they were wielding the katana sword, bow and arrow, the way they approached horseback riding, everything was such a discipline to mastery. And with our clients, when we meet with them, you can very clearly see the ones who are after money and the ones who are after mastery. And then there's the group in the middle that's not really sure what they're after because they don't know how to do either one of those things. We really want to focus on those folks that really are after mastery in their business. Twofold. Once you focus on mastery, man, the money is the easy part. It always is. Clients, that's never been their challenge when they're working with this level of mastery. It's getting to that level of discipline and realizing the benefits of that. When we started off Samurai Success, I had left the world of politics. I'd spent a lot of years there. And I will tell you, that was not a place that I knew I was going to change the world from. There was no interest in really making that kind of that I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so when I left that place, I was like disheartened. I was like, I thought this would be a place to make that kind of difference. When you look, especially not only in the world, but America especially, if you really want to make a change in America, you have to talk to business owners. And you have them start understanding these concepts you and I are talking about, and then applying them and actually experience the benefits of them. It's on, man. It's game changer. It's exponential, because then you talk about people who talk and gossip, and those are business owners, right? They're going to be telling you about how successful they were using this brand new technology, which is centuries old.
Yeah, the encouragement is always for people to go ahead to get Swords of Illumination, but I'd love to, I don't know how you felt about writing a book, but you've been in the personal development space a very long time, and you must have read your fair amount of books yourself. And there's something in me that goes, I love books so much that if I'm going to write one, it needs to be something that is absolutely off my heart. Like, what I imagine this is a part of your creation. Tell us a little bit about what's gone into it and what you wanted, because I love the fact that you bring about a sense of, you felt it was destiny to write it, and therefore if it's in my hands, it's destiny that it's in my hands, because there would have been many points along your journey for it not to have been brought to the world. There'd have been many points of my journey for us not to have met, and yet here we are. You've had all these moments where you've written the book, overcoming whatever happened. Travis has connected me with you, and now we're here. So you can look at that and go, what a wonderful web of coincidence, or you can go, dude, we are meant to be in this moment.
Yes, sir.
Why do you think that is?
Wow. Let's unpack that question.
Yeah, for sure.
So, man, you are just spot on with this. And yeah, this moment exists for a very specific reason, purpose, by design. How did we get here? Well, along both of your guys' journeys, it's my belief and my experience that, and that's why we've written the book, is to understand your destiny isn't something given to you. Your destiny isn't something out there that you have to go find. Your destiny is something that's attracted to who you say you are. And that's the difference of all the books, tapes, movies. And I'm a huge book, movie guy. I love them. And there was always this constant theme that, you know, your destiny is waiting for you. You're supposed to go find it. It's like a treasure. It was a treasure hunt. It was something that I had to go and do this. And I wasn't doing a good job at it, obviously, because, you know, it wasn't showing up the way I thought it was supposed to. Yeah. So that beat me up for a while. And then I was like, then I heard a different message. Yeah. Through some of these themes that I was starting to read over and over again, these themes kept showing up like over and over and different. They were all saying it different ways, but it was a theme that was so consistent, just hit you right in the head. And that theme was, you don't have to you don't have to come and discover who you are. You are here to create who you are. And I got to tell you, I don't know if I'm doing it justice to be able to say, when I sat down, I'm serious. I think I went into a cave for like a month. Yeah. I was like, what the hell just happened? Yeah. I mean, it hit me that hard. It resonated, Ryan, so hard that, I mean, I was crying. I was literally, I made my bed sheets. It was a remarkable moment in my life to go, I get to do what? Yeah. And as excited as I was when I came out of that place, I then got really afraid. Yes. Because then I went into this place of, oh my God, I don't know if I can handle that power. And in the place I was in, I wasn't able to handle that power because I had been thinking that I wanted everybody to tell me the rules and how do I do this? What do I do over here? And all of a sudden now it was on me. It was my responsibility. Oh man. So you can imagine that journey for a while, right?
Well, it's the, for me, it's the unseen forces of light and dark, right? And I truly believe that, and I've seen this play out in many people, because I talk about something called heart work, which is the gifts and skills and talents we have that we're meant to bring to the world in the service of other people, and that facilitates healing. It's like God's work in me, through me, healing others, right? And the amount of people I see that and I support with that get so close to it, and it's like, I've realized that darkness isn't an entity. I can't surround you in darkness. I can just remove your light. Nice. And the only way the enemy wins, if we want to call it that, is to stop you bringing your light to the world. And there are a number of tools in its arsenal to help do that. But once I start to see the world that way, I think, okay, we're in a battle, we're in a warfare.
Yeah, and what better way to approach it than being samurai, being a warrior, right? Kind of concept. Now, I say that with just love in my heart because the new millennium samurai doesn't carry around a sword every single day, right? As the samurai were disbanded thousands of years ago, they became the new teachers, mentors, philosophers of Japan. And so let's get clear, the samurai spirit exists today and is available to all of us, like Christ energy is available to all of us. It's just a metaphor that I use in my life to remember what I'm doing here. And being in service of others, samurai, is my term for me. This is the chosen portion of me. And this isn't to be able to say, this is what you need to do. I'm not saying that at all. As a matter of fact, I'm saying stay away from that. Look what resonates within you, because this just turns me on, man. It just boom. Speaking of the light, that when I'm turned on, man, the light is here and I'm truly being in service. I know when I know who I am and I'm centered around that is the light.
There are people that are absolutely on the edge of their seats listening to this, and they like, right, let's go. Turn me into a samurai.
I'm with you.
Where does that journey? I imagine it's the journey inward. Where does it start?
Well, it starts with getting to understand that there are elements of this amazing thing that you and I both have already inside of us called human technology. It's the most powerful technology that exists on this planet. As a matter of fact, the technology is the ability to take something of nothingness and turn it into something. And, you know, in the spiritual terms, it's a term we use all the time, but we don't always have this understanding of it. It's called manifestation. And as human beings, there is no other creature on this planet, potentially in this galaxy or beyond, that has the ability to do that. That's remarkable to me. We can take nothing and turn it into something. And I'm telling you, on both sides, as you know, you can take the light and turn something into something positive, and you can take the darkness and turn something right into negative. And you can do it every single day. And we are. And when you have that pause in that moment that you're on the edge of your seat and you're thinking about, holy crap, I really do. I do that. I'm creating these things. That creation is what you know is meaning and experience. In the Swords of Illumination, you get the first time, and my understanding about it, you get the formula, if you will, about how you're doing that. Mm-hmm. That was the breakthrough I would need to know, because my mind is very scientific and it wants to understand and it has a sequence of things. And in this physical plane, Newtonian rules rule, and you got to be logical and linear. And if you don't express things in that way, then all of a sudden you're this spiritual master that knows all this information, but can't make it practical. That drives me crazy. How do you make this stuff practical? Because in this physical plane, if it isn't functional and practical, it doesn't make sense to a lot of people, and they're never going to apply. So where does the journey start? The journey starts in understanding there's a basic belief that we all hold, that knowledge is power. As long as you hold on to that belief system, then you're going to be out there gathering all this knowledge, and you're not going to be doing anything with it, because in the book, it reminds you of when you apply knowledge is where the power comes from. And when you do that, that's the doingness from a state of beingness that creates a have-ness. Being, do, have, that we all talk about in these cliches these days, but that's how it works. And you are the center of that. You are the wielder of that.
Yeah, I love that. And, you know, my audience would be familiar with the be, do, have concept. And I've conspiratorially talked about how the powers that be know this too, and they use it against us because they convince us that we need to have more and do more in order to be more. And it's a huge injustice. It's a lie. It's not a truth, but it's had the effect that it's made consumers of us. I'll go get happiness from a meal, beauty from a product, energy from a drink. And it's absolutely taking them away from the truth of what you've just said, which is that it's already within.
It's already there. And that's of any power source. I don't care who it is. And we can go into conspiracies left and right about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'll also tell you the solution to all those conspiracies. We'll get back to that. But if you're really going to understand this, and if you do understand it, it can be weaponized in a negative way. There's no doubt about it. It's part of this physical plane to be able to have the law of polarity in place, the law of contrast that exists so that you and I can have experiences of ourselves. Can't be up without down, left without right, right without wrong, dark without light. All those contrasts have to exist, and all of them are divinity. Yeah. That's the thing that we kind of get lost in, right? Yeah. About this idea that says, but part of that's evil. Okay, if we're going to use the word evil, then you have to understand that's part of this thing called divinity, because it's all one thing, and we're in this mix of things. And the thing that keeps us centered in all those contrasts, remembering who you are in the very moment of now. And that's chapter 1, where really chapter as the first sword of illumination talks about that, is really about who are you in this moment of now.
Yeah. And that's what, you know, as I look over your shoulder, is your logo with the yin and the yang very much represented. And that, I've got one here on my wrist. It very much represents, there's always a little bit of darkness in the light, and there's always a bit of light in the darkness. And the way of the warrior, should we say it, is the synthesis of both of those polarities.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, every time I suffer, I've come away from the synthesis of those polarities. In some way, I wish it was different. In some way, I rejected part of it. Some way, I've not accepted part of it. Some way, I've battled with a part of it. Some way, I've desired more of it. And the suffering always comes when there's no synthesis of that polarity.
Beautifully said. And there lies the battle. The true battle is always inside. And when you stop battling inside, because you know who you are, brother,
Yeah.
the rest of the world changes.
My audience will know, though, when I drop on some of these bombshells, like my natural byproduct is to laugh in irony. It's like a wonderful byproduct. It's like, all right, that makes sense. Like, no wonder we suffer. Like, I think suffering is put, real tragedy to one side, just daily, everyday stress and suffering that maybe we cause ourselves. We need not do it to ourselves.
Yes. And then, there's this thing that we're talking about is this concept of, in the Western philosophy, we have this idea of this coin thing, right? Heads or tails.
Yeah. Good weather,
right?
bad weather.
But it's the same coin, but just different sides of the coin, right? So we're talking about oneness here, but two different sides of ore. Now, that's very different from the yin yang. And the yin yang is so clever because it's thousands of years old, because it represents both sides of the coin on one side of the coin. That's true oneness. Oneness is not sameness, right? The light and the dark, and you are made of those. I am made of those. It's being able to blend those things. And that's what's so fun about studying Aikido, which is the martial art of the samurai, for as many years as I had. It's all about blending, right? And about learning that stuff. And there are days where, man, I'm just on it. And there's days I'm just, oh my God, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah.
And I will tell you that I appreciate the days that I'm really good at it because of the days that I'm not.
Yes.
I know me well enough, man, that if the universe gave me everything I wanted all at the same time, I would be completely bored out of my mind. I would. I'm telling you right now that thank goodness it knows what to do better than I do, because it wouldn't work the way I've wanted to.
It's real wisdom to acknowledge that, because I in my recent few days have, in some parts, not my spiritual grounding, but my tired, emotional human being has in some way wished things hadn't got as bad as they did. And I'm like, who am I kidding? Because if it didn't get this bad, it wouldn't have shown me I was able to deal with it this way. Because if it was only half as bad, maybe I wouldn't have been pushed so far to see what I was capable of. And maybe I'd have dealt with it differently and less well. And it's just like, I think the Stoics call it amor fati, which is learning to love what is.
Beautifully said, man. Beautifully said.
Man, what is life? What is life?
It's truly remarkable, fun and amazing.
Yeah, like what are the next steps around the swords of illumination? Where do we go once we really start to peel back the layers of the truth of who we are? What do we start to discover?
So we're starting to understand this word manifestation a lot differently. It's been here for all these years, but now we're really starting to understand it. And a lot of that has to do with quantum mechanics and this idea of bringing spiritual and science back together, the center part of that Venn diagram, which is quantum mechanics. And we're starting to understand that there's a connection between us as humans, weird, and this physical plane, weird, and the universe itself. And those connections all accumulate into frequency, energy, and vibration. So if you want to understand the universe, Nikola Tesla, you've got to understand those things. Well, where those things come from is you. You are the center of that. And when you understand who you are, two ways, consciously and subconsciously. And here's the trick. In manifestation, we manifest from one part of our brain a lot more than we do from the other part. And that is what most of us think about. We manifest from the conscious part of our brain. We do not. we're understanding that we're only manifesting about 5% of everything we're creating in this physical realm. We're only doing it for 5%. And the rest, the 95%, is from the subconscious, the unconscious, or something would maybe be called programming. Now, there's the trick of it. If I could figure a way to be able to understand that this is hardware, my verbiage is software, then I would be very careful what I tell myself every single day, because I'm programming that unconscious, which then manifests for me. No matter how conscious I am about what I really want, the goal setting, the vision boards, all that other stuff, none of that works without assimilating in the programming. The programming can be reprogrammed. Thank God, because most of us have that programming set by the age of 7 years old. So Ryan, think about this in your life. Every single subject you and I could talk about that is important, making a change on this planet, how much money you're going to have, how much love you're allowed to have, how your health is going to be, and every other category you and I could possibly talk about for the next 10 hours is already programmed by the age of 7. People don't understand the power of that. That's mind-blowing. But the good news is it's reprogrammable.
Yeah.
My attempt with Swords of Illumination is to start giving the reader the elements of that program and how to rewire yourself for that, so that you can get your conscious part of your brain and your subconscious part of your brain aligned and centered about how you want to create it. And I will tell you, this is not new. This is what successful people on this planet. Now, we could talk about successful day and how to define that, but I will tell you, any name that you would give me on this list of people that you know is like, this person's successful, this person, and whether I knew them or not, I promise if you sat down with them, they're going to tell you these elements that are these themes that we've discovered and put into this book series.
They know who they are, they know what they stand for. And, you know, it's sometimes it's going to that point where it's just like, if I'm to come to the world as the fullest expression of who I truly am, then I don't need to find something of the world. I need to discover what it is within and bring that to the world. So when I'm holding myself accountable to, well, who is that? You know, who is that? What is that? What is this me, I thing, right? Well, so much of that has to be rooted in values. What is important to me as a human being, and how might my words and my actions be a demonstration of what's truly important?
Beautiful, man. I love the connection that you obviously know so well, because that's it. That's this formula. So many of us are doing the do, have, be strategy that you talked about, right? We have to do this work to have money, to be successful. The masters have been telling us for centuries that it's be, do, have. And think about this. If you started to understand who you were before you went into any situation where you're about to do something, how would it change? Like, you could control that. Like, I'm going to go into something that I really don't like to do, and I'm going to choose to love it. And you are congruent with that. And as you go into that, you're actually going to start loving that faster, because you're already in the state of being loved while you're doing something that you used to hate. And it starts to change the frequency and energy of that. And all of a sudden you have a different meaning and experience from that. And you come out the other side because you chose to be this before going into it. And you have a totally different experience. We're doing this already. We're just not conscious of it. And where we're going into these situations of doing things, our programming kicks in, and we just go into this CD-ROM thing, which says, oh, that person did this to me. This is my automatic response. It's a default program that we do, which you just experienced for the last 3 or 4 days of your life. This isn't the first time, I imagine, that you've had to go through something like this. And I will tell you that you are becoming aware of your own programming you call strategies or behaviors for dealing with that event.
Yeah. I've got to a point where people ask me, how are you? And I've I'm unfortunately an open book. I'm a guy that really has a bit of that checking and testing of how I am. And bizarrely, I'm starting to say, well, my spirit feels like this. I feel good. I feel strong. I feel hopeful. My earthly body feels weary. It feels tired. It feels hurt. And I'm like, oh man, like, is this what it means to have like proper self-awareness? Like,
Right.
I'm sure there's bits that I've missed, but for now, I'm deepening in my awareness for sure, and my self-compassion, I think.
Beautiful. And that, I mean, obviously you're having very conscious level decisions about you, right? And that's the important part, because eventually you get to the next phase where you start to integrate both that spirit side of you and the human side. Because if you bring that spirit energy into this thing develops immediately. It just blossoms because
Yeah.
it has a new energy source.
Yes.
It's the same thing with dealing with real world practical problems. As long as we stay physically based, man, and human based, and we forget our real true identity of divinity, we're never going to solve these earthly issues. They're not here to be solved. They're here to be experienced. And when you can tap into that source energy and bring heaven on earth, it shifts everything. And there is a master inside of every one of us that if we can get access to that by getting out of our own way, that master, I believe, and I've experienced in some way, shape, or forms, knows the answers to everything I want to be able to do. It knows if someone's telling me the truth or not. It knows if I'm hearing conspiracy. I can know through that source if I can listen to it and trust it. That's another part conversation.
Yep.
But when I can really trust that and understand, discern between the language between my ego and my soul, which is telling me those things when I'm hearing this information coming into me, I can very easily, as long as I'm listening to the source of me, discern whether that's something I really need to deal with or not.
100%. My intuition matched with my curiosity to ask good questions has been a lifesaver.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've watched a number of your podcasts, and you have this incredible ability to trust your intuition. That's incredibly rare these days, which is the unfortunate part that we need to get out there so people can trust that intuition. When you trust what you think is your intuition, because both your ego and your soul speak in a common language called feelings. And this is the tough part. Discerning between those very similar languages, but are discernible, and they're not the same. So when your intuition is based upon your ego and you listen to that, it's going to take you to some pretty interesting places.
Yeah.
And you're going to not want to trust that because it's gotten you into some places that you really didn't think you wanted to be. Listen to that soul part, that soul place, man. It's a very different language, and it's a different feeling state. And being able to know the difference between that is what the trust is about. You have that level of trust when you know you've listened to your intuitions and it's taking you down the right path. Oh, that's a great place.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And just for context for our listeners to go, well, how will I know? For me, it's characterized by the presence of peace. Like, I know that it's the latter when I feel peaceful, regardless of whether my situation has changed. Like, that inner state of peace means that nothing external needs to change. It means that I'm able to journey with whatever happens, because in some way I know that this is the truth or it's the path.
Man, where were you 20 years ago for me? Holy crap. I was not able to discern between those two spaces for the longest period of time. I knew it existed. I knew with every bit of my energy that it existed. I just didn't know how to discern between those feeling states. And you just said it beautifully, because love is the only language your soul uses. Your ego can use love, but it always uses fear. And so whenever I don't feel that peace that you're talking about, I know something's on and I need to ask more questions, right? And just start looking into what the hell's going on here. So beautifully said.
This is the powerful, heartfelt pursuit of mastery you talk about, because the ego uses fear because it is on the supposition that love is not present. Therefore, the fear is rooted in, come get that. I fear that I am not that. And therefore, I must come get that. Whereas I feel on the other side of it, love allows the expression of that. When we talk about samurai being serve, well, I think it is the life source energy of love that calls us to be able to serve without needing anything in return.
Yes, beautifully said. And then when you go into businesses, you don't talk about soul and ego and love, fear, right? That's not language that people like to use in that field. So we use words of scarcity, and abundance.
Yeah.
It resonates with that group of people, which is great because it resonates with me as a business person, right? As a scientist, as a human. It goes, whoa, I don't have to bring this love thing because that's, I can bring abundance in.
Yeah.
Where does abundance come from?
Yeah.
Where does this scarcity come from? And it comes from the same place, me.
Yeah.
It goes back to answering the same thing again, brother. If I am centered with who I really am, it brings forth a state of abundance. Mm-hmm. When I have forgotten who I am, I immediately go into scarcity. Mm-hmm. It's a great alarm system to let you know where you're located. It's brilliant. We just maybe not have been taught it this way. And if we have been, we've just forgotten the lessons.
Yeah. I'm loving this conversation. And I think one of the ways I'd like to take it, is in this world of what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be, masculine in today's age? Because I think the society, I think the culture is having many of us forget. For me personally, I didn't have an example of that, so it's not like I've forgotten anything. I haven't seen it role modeled. I haven't seen it demonstrated. And I guess for you, what does a samurai husband, father, how does that manifest in the world?
Wow. Okay. So one of the things that I definitely know about this work is that you get to choose you. And that's the important conversation to have here. Having anyone else express to you how you should do something is scarcity. It's fear. Mm-hmm. That being said, you've got to look inside you and say, what does this label of being a man look like to you? And how do you want to come and experience that? Well, when you took a look at all the factors on this planet, there's definitely some really important structure as men that we need to adhere to. Being really great leaders from a soul place. We have gone and swung the pendulum the other way for, this alpha male energy, and this brute and this, mad person, if you will, that has to be the monster and the warrior all the time. And we've swung the other way. And now we have a good range of examples for the person to be able to sit down and say, hey, looking at that scale that we've just been through the last 20, 30 years, what looks good to me? What represents who I am? What resonates with me? And start there. For me, it has been about someone who understands that I have both the light and the darkness within me, and not judging either side of those things, understanding that monster inside of me that I know very well, and I've used sometimes has protected me. As a matter of fact, it's gotten me here, but it may not get me where I want to go. But knowing it's there, Ryan, is important for me. I need to know that if I had to protect or something like this, I can do that. And I can do it because I've had the experience of it. Do I like the results of that experience? No, because remember, I am very consciously aware that that soul that came to me to do that thing is someone who has truly chosen to forget who they are to give me the experience of understanding that there is this thing inside of me that can protect. And then how do I handle that situation after that? Well, I used to feel such grief and heartache and everything else. And now it's very different, where if that event has to happen, that some of those people have become my best friends. And it's one of the weird things that males do with each other, right?
Yeah.
You don't like each other? Come on outside. Let's go break the crap out of each other. And then, depending on how that dynamic works out, you really can create a whole different relationship because of it. So those are just examples of what we're looking for, is, how do you want to express yourself and experience yourself as a man or woman this lifetime, is an important decision for every single person to make.
Yeah, and it's important, because there's a lot of narrative around what a man should be, and even some respects, me asking this conversation is adding to what could be confusion around, oh, what is it? Who should I be? But I think there is definitely space and a calling home for men to go, just connect with that within, drop off all of the expectations and the stereotypes and the Me Too campaigns of all this world. Yes, it has its purpose, but what it doesn't need to do is shame and guilt you into being the fullest expression of who you truly are. And I sometimes think that it needs us to get a little bit quieter so that we can come back with a bit more conviction as to what that is. Because let's face it, I think the disservice that the world is getting is not having men at their fullest expressions. I think there's a polarity where there are many men who, for whatever reason, are using power over people. And then there's a whole group of people that have become passive and submissive and aren't showing up in. So one's exerting too much power over their people and their family. Another are exerting no influence, not showing up, showing no leadership. And I think there's got to be somewhere in the middle, which is both this tenderness, loving, but serving and provide. My own personal perspective, I might add to, but I think I think the world needs more men with purpose, with values, and with conviction for what it is that they want in life and who they want to do that with.
And I think that becoming that person really has to do a lot with your philosophy toward life. Yeah. So let's talk about the two extremes that I'm aware of. There is definitely most of us on this planet using something called the law of assertion. Mm-hmm. And then there's this other new wave concept called the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. These are the contrasting philosophies that people are using. So if you're going to approach life with a law of assertion through leverage, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to manipulate you for what I want, and varying degrees of that. Believe me, I've watched people do it so beautifully where they're not really doing it, but they really are doing it kind of stuff. They're just a lot more clever than the other ones. And then there's ones that are full on, just in your face. You're going to do whatever I tell you to do. And they're not subtle, but they're all approaching life from the same law of assertion philosophy. We're into a new age, brother. We're experiencing a shift in our lifetimes of changing this cycle of 26,000 years in a brand new energetic way. Mm-hmm. We have a new opportunity, and it's coming whether we get on board with it or not, right? It's just the cycle of energy that's here. So as we move into that and have a new opportunity, as we can potentially move into this law of attraction, you can't use that law of assertion, domination, manipulation strategy in this. It doesn't work. It's not going to work. So if you're going to choose that type of person to be, whether it's male or female, right, man, woman, you're going to do that philosophy of life. This is who you're going to be. And you have to be a certain way to make that philosophy of life work, because doing that over here, and by the way, being this softer, gentler law of attraction kind of person doesn't work in the law of assertion. So it's kind of set up almost from the beginning of which life path you're going to take. And that, again, is a choice that you need to make.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating. Is there anything else in the book that you'd love to share with our audience? And I'll include the link to the book in the show notes, but is there anything that you're really just keen for people to really connect with within the book?
Probably the most important lesson for me out of the book was that we do get to create who we are. As a matter of fact, I take it even further and more bold. There is only one thing in this universe that has not been created. And that's who you say you are. It is the single thing you and I get to do as humans, is we get to create who we are. Everything else already exists. Quantum mechanics, they call it the law or the pure potentiality of things. Every idea, every thought you're ever going to have. And when you talk to the masters of this, they all say the same things. How did you find that music? Where did you get this idea? How did you write that book? Where did you get that play? Where did you get the movie? Everybody says it different ways, says the same thing. It just came to me. It already exists, Ryan. This conversation about how to figure things out is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Thing is already figured out.
Yeah.
How to do everything, every solution to every problem has already been figured. I know that sounds crazy, but just imagine if it were true just for a minute. How would you get access to that? How would you get access to that amazing super quantum computer of the universe that has the answer to everything? And I believe, through my experiences so far this lifetime, is that my ability to get there and get access to that is to get out of the way and let source connect and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And we do this through different biohacking things. Breath work is a way to get to source. Meditation, key way that we've been talking about for centuries to get to source. And everything else is about getting to that source so you can be quiet enough to hear the answers.
Yeah. And even when it says that you gain access to the quantum field through high vibrational frequencies like gratitude.
Yes, beautifully said.
Yeah, man, it's just like, it's all there, isn't it? All the spiritual wisdom matched with. So I interviewed Richard Rudd for a couple of weeks ago from the Gene Keys, and one of the things he says is that, you know, we've got the ancient mystics said one thing, and we've got the modern day science that's confirming that thousands of years later. You know, and it's just, well, there's truth in it all. There's truth in it all.
That's those themes, source code, right?
Yeah.
Information. And I rarely like to use the word truth when it comes to this physical plane, because having an absolute truth in this physical plane is a very tough thing to get your brain around, right? It's always a truth, not the truth. So, but when you talk about source, wow, that's connected to the truth, the source. And when you tap into that, brother, it's a whole different quality of experience.
I have a word here at Always Bet yesterday. It's called Heartprint. And for me, the word represents the ripple effect, the legacy that we leave behind in other people. And I'd just love for you, David, just to take a moment just to consider what you think or what you hope your heartprint will be.
So I really wrote this book for me, to be honest with you. I needed something to remind me of how this place really works. And I have this sense, right? And I know it's going to sound strange, maybe not to you and your audience, but I know I've been here before. I don't know why I know that. I just know it. And when I get back here, I don't want to spend all this time figuring this stuff out again. I want to read this book and figure this out, right? I want to be able to know it. Or more beautifully is someone has gotten hold of this and advanced it even further than what the book says. And they become my teacher, coach when I get back here. Yeah. That can really change the planet. The key to it is me working on me is the best thing I can do for this planet. And me becoming the best me makes this place better.
Oh, I love that. That was a great answer. David, I appreciate you. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for sharing space and time. I'd love to spend all day with you. We'd just be honored if you'd leave us a final thought from your good self.
Final thought from my good self is find time to work on you, man. That's the key to this thing, because once you get centered around who you are, the chaos is not going to change. Your response to the chaos will change. And that's what you're really after anyway.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, man. So nice to meet you.
Thank you for making it to the end of the interview here on YouTube. I hope that our time spent together has left you a little bit better than before you push play. Before you go anywhere, please leave a comment down below. Some of your key reflections, your key takeaways. I love hearing from you and what this conversation has inspired in you. Let me know what you're going to do as a result of this conversation. I will be back next Wednesday where I will share another inspiring guest. To make sure that you don't miss that, please do subscribe, hit the bell, and you will be notified as soon as it goes live. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organization, please do visit alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com, and it will be my honor and privilege to help you in any way I can. Keep leading, my friends. I've been Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast here on YouTube. Always love.